This episode's brought to you by Subaru. Ever wonder what it's like to own a Subaru? You can meet real Subaru owners. Find out at meetandowner.com. On meetandowner.com, owners of Subarus create personalized profiles. You can make video, photo, text posts, communicate one-on-one with users, share firsthand looks at what owning a Subaru is really like. So check out meetandowner.com, talk to real owners, see how a Subaru can fit your life at meetandowner.com. And very cool thing, stay tuned at the end of today's show. Subaru has sponsored a very, very cool thing that I'm proud of. Mini episodes of Beautiful Anonymous. It's branded content, but it's actually cool. They let us do it our way, our thing. Subaru is awesome for doing it. So stay tuned at the end of the episode. And remember, meetandowner.com. Today's episode of Beautiful Stories from Anonymous People, sponsored by MailChimp, a service I have used for many years in my own personal work, well before this podcast ever existed. I can vouch for them. When you're trying to tell your story to the world, MailChimp can help for free. Gorgeous pre-designed email templates. You can also code your own. It is not hard. I can pull it off. If I can do it, you can do it. They'll show you how to send, when you should send, why people open an email or click delete, help you find your people, grow your business. MailChimp can help you tell your story effectively, find people who care about it. I've used it for a long time. I swear by it. I send out MailChimps on a regular basis. More at MailChimp.com. Hello to all my chest-kicking ladies out there in the world. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, one phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hello, everybody. It's your friend Chris Gethard here. Very, very happy to bring you another episode of Beautiful Anonymous. And remember, if you wanna support the show, there's a few ways to do that. You can always leave a review on iTunes. I haven't pushed for those in a while. Those help a lot. And also now we got the Sorry Sally t-shirt. We got an enamel pin designed by my friend Diana Kolsky. Couple things you can go out there and buy, show your love for the show. Maybe you'll be shopping at the grocery store, see somebody else with that pin and say, hey, I also believe in hearing people ramble into a phone for an hour. I also am into that. So check that out. Enjoy it. Last week's episode was the Trailblazer episode. We heard from a guy who climbs mountains, ponders the effects of his overzealous drug use in his past. Have to say, I didn't anticipate that would be by far the most divisive episode to ever hit the internet. The Facebook group exploded with opinions. I got an email from Sally, my mom, about that episode. It really brought out emotions, people. I did not see that coming. It really split into three camps. There were a lot of people who right out of the gate said, this is my favorite episode. This is like this weird character that he feels like one of these uniquely American characters that wanders out of the wilderness, and what a story. People saying it was their favorite. Other people who said the fact that he was hiking actively and pausing between his words made it very difficult to listen to the episode. Some people with technical issues with that, understandable. And then some people who said, you know what, this is a person who's really romanticizing drug use and sounds like has lived off of a lot of other people in his life, especially women he was romantically linked with, and I'm not sure if morally I can get down with all that. I will say all of those opinions are totally valid. This Facebook group is my favorite thing. I'll talk more about that in a second. My favorite comment in the Facebook group was from an old friend of mine, actually, Andy Partridge, a guy who I have known since I was 14 years old. He said, I love Chris with all my heart, but when he praised the guy for correcting his grammar, I almost puked. He corrected himself incorrectly. This is what I take away from podcasts. I finally joined the group to say this. I'm a grammar enthusiast. I should note, I met Andy Partridge when I was 13, 14 years old when I started going to punk shows all over New Jersey. If you had told either of us that someday our relationship would come down to a couple punk rockers getting mad about each other's grammar on the internet, man, what a sad state of affairs. But good to hear from you, my old friend Danson and Andy. This week's episode, very fascinating. Has some divisive elements, and I just really want to encourage everybody out there. I think this Facebook group, the Beautiful Anonymous, the community, search for it, join, everybody gets in. The mods are great. Thank you to all of them. I want to give Sam J a personal shout out this week. He's doing great stuff, helping me out so much. But it's very cool because you get to talk to other fans of the show and debate how the episodes went, what you liked, what you didn't like. That's really cool. Also, people bring up other podcasts they like, other things tangentially related to the show, philosophical discussions. It's very cool. I think it's a cool thing, and I hope everybody listening joins it. Sometimes people do get a little testy with each other, and I tend to have to step in sometimes and say, hey, please say whatever you want, except let's not fight with each other. Respect always. This week's episode could bring that out. One section of it, just want to say, please don't fight. Oh, don't fight on the internet about stuff. It's not worth any of our time. Anyway, this week's episode, I really loved it. This woman, as you will hear, helps mothers, helps families grow. She helps facilitate the beginnings of lives. It's a very cool thing, a very eye-opening thing. Conversation I was very interested in personally, and also I think she has such a fantastic personality that it was really cool to talk to her. There's one stretch, the stretch I just want to caution people, please don't go nuts. There's a stretch that comes up with something that for many decades has been a very divisive issue in American culture and politics, and she opens up about it. I'm sure a lot of people will have opinions on it. Let's discuss those opinions respectfully in that Facebook group. And most of all, let's enjoy this caller because she's super cool, has lived a cool life, and does a lot of cool things with her time. One of my favorite things about this show, there's people who live very like specific lives, occupations, and they're on the periphery. You only come into contact with them once in a blue moon. And to hear from someone who's in one of those positions so in depth was such a treat for me. And I think you'll enjoy it as well. Let's get to the call.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. Oh, I love your voice.
Oh, thanks so much. I hate it with a passion. I hate my voice.
Oh, no, man. Don't hate it. It's great. I'm so glad to hear it.
That's nice.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. Waking up, drinking some caffeine.
Oh, good.
I've
been up since about 5:30.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Why do you get up so early?
Yeah, I'm an early riser. I like to get to my office early and hang out,
Wow.
get organized, get prepared for the day.
Boss must love you.
That type of thing. Oh, no, I'm the only one in the building. It's me and the cleaning guy. They usually don't know. That's okay, though. That's all right. It lets me sort of, greet the rest of my day with the right frame of mind, right?
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So, a very positive person.
Yeah. Well, listen, usually by 3:00 in the afternoon, I'm not feeling quite this positive, and I'm pretty sure the world's going to end. But right now, I've got it going. I went out and took a walk, and I've had water, ate a whole bar of chocolate already today. So, so that that keeps those endorphins going, and the weather's finally nice. At least where I am, it is.
Yeah. It sounds like we might be in a similar area of the country. Weather's starting to get real nice around here.
Yeah. Crocuses are coming up and snowdrops, and that's always, I'm a big fan of those as sort of, is that sort of regeneration and that ability to sort of make it through those last 3 days, those last few days of winter.
I don't know what a crocus is. That's a word I've heard. I wouldn't know a crocus if one hit me in the face. I wouldn't even know if it's a thing that can hit you in the face.
I bet you'd see them. I bet you'd see them and you'd be like, "Oh, that's what you guys are talking." And I bet your parents know what they are. They're either purple, yellow, or white. Mm-hmm. And I remember when my daughter was first born, she was an April baby. She's almost 22 now, and I was walking through a park, and this old person stopped and said, "Your baby's so beautiful." And I said, "Oh, thank you." And she was all snuggled in really close. And she went on to say, she's born at the luckiest time of year because everyone's smiling right now. So her view on the world is that everyone smiles. And the crocuses were there. So that's what they always remind me of.
It's like a Norman Rockwell
They don't
painting.
last very long.
That story's like fills the heart with warm, fuzzy feelings.
Yeah. I just always remember that. It made me, this little wizzled hand on my arm telling me this thing was pretty cool. I always share it with my daughter. I try and remind her when she's feeling, got the agita or anxious, and she's worried about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's nice.
I say, I try and plant a bunch every year.
And is your daughter like, Mom, I'm tired of that story? Is your daughter like...
Yeah, basically, sure.
That's fair.
She sort of looks at me like, well, that's all well and good. You can take your crocuses and shove them. I'm trying to tell you that I'm having a really bad day.
Yeah, and you're launching into the crocus Hallmark card story again.
I know. Well, the children are relatively tolerant of me. At least the older two are.
That's
so
nice.
They cut me a little bit of slack.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I was going to tell you a story about circles, if that sounds interesting to you.
About circles?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or how I think, about how stuff. So when I was a starving artist and, living barely off of $200 a week, and, my goal was to be a famous painter, and it was a very, not self-centered, but, a very introverted view of the world, like very, self-focused, looking inward instead of looking outward. And I enjoyed painting. I clearly wasn't going to earn a living. But anyway, I found myself, I ended up getting pregnant, totally, no health insurance, no money, no business. But I was 25 years old, and I had really started thinking that I really wanted to have a baby. And I was thinking, I'm living this way in a city where this is never going to happen for me, and that seems so unfair. And so I was riding home on the subway, trying not to cry, and I looked up, and I saw like a PSA on the subway, and it was like a New York State PSA, not like a weird religious one, like don't know what to do. It was more like, call this number and we can help. So I went home and called, and it was like the state insurance number. And I have this blue notebook. I took all the notes from the lady, who was talking to me, who, let me cry and say, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I don't think I can have an abortion. And, I feel like, just how is this going to happen? And so I had never thought about health insurance or anything like that. So she was like, well, first of all, you can get health insurance. You can get health insurance for the baby. And then, you have this choice. You could go to this place and they have midwives and it's about $3,000 for a birth, or you could go to this hospital and you could have physicians and it's about $11,000 for the birth. And I was, secretly throwing up in, oh my God, I'm going to be sick. Like what am I going to do? And then she had to, remind me what health insurance meant. And she was like, no, that's not your out of pocket. That's like, we're going to help you with that. You're going to fill out a form. And basically I ended up meeting midwives who changed my entire worldview, like almost turned me inside out, like all of a sudden, all the energy where I'd been looking inward, I looked outward onto the world, which I think probably many people experience when they have a baby. But just the whole process of working with these women who really believed in me and were so matter of fact about it. Like it just became this, of course, this is the thing you're going to do. And I drove from a borough and drove over a bridge in labor and was thinking, this is fucking nuts. Somebody needs to take me to the hospital. You people are
Sally.
Horrible. And I'm like vomiting. I know. Sorry, Sally. I'm vomiting into this like salad bowl and looking at the people who are with me. And I'm like, you guys are horrible and no one's helping me. And I got to the midwives and, practically walked across a busy city street in like T-shirt and Chuck Taylors and a red bathrobe, like totally out of my mind and body. Like, oh man, what is going on? And then about 7 hours later, I had a daughter, and all these women around me just never let me believe that anything else was going to happen. And I looked at this person and I was like, oh my God, like I did this. Like I did this intense physical thing. And it took me 21 years, but those are the women, I always tell my kids, like my daughter, I always say, you made me who I am. And my one son, he helped me get to the next stage. And my third son helped me get there even more. And so it was just this really intense experience. And, after I had the baby, then 7 hours later, then they're like, you guys can go home. And I was like, huh? What?
Wow.
You want me to put she weighs 7 pounds. I think I should stay here with you. And they're like, no. So, drove back to that borough, hit those potholes where I was like, oh man, we're going to drop in, into one of Dante's levels, and her little head is bouncing around. And she's made it this far, and she's a fabulous person. But it just really changed the way I wanted to interact with the world. It moved me to the role of wanting to serve people, to meet women and families in that spot where they feel like they're least able to do it, and be there to guide them through so they know that they can.
That's cool.
So I've been going to births for 20 years. Yeah,
So you help with births?
It never fails to sort of, yeah,
That's
I'm
cool.
a midwife.
I have some, oh wow. So, okay. First of all, I want to say at one point, if we could just flag this, Jared, you did use the sentence, those midwives really turned me inside out. I just want you to know,
yeah.
I want to grab that sentence and just put that in the teaser for the show, because that sounds like it's way more horrible than what the story actually was.
Right.
The sentence,
okay.
those midwives turned me inside out. The sensationalism of that. I can't. So the circle, you said it was a story about circles. I would imagine this is the full circle moment in your life where you become a midwife after this experience that surprised you. Is that the way it was a story about circles? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very metaphorical. I wasn't expecting a story about a Ferris wheel or anything, but I just wanted to make sure I was perceiving the circle aspect correctly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask, how many kids do you have?
3.
3, so one daughter and 2 sons.
Mm-hmm. 2 are in college. Well, one's graduating from college, and then the littlest one, who's not little, is graduating from high school.
Yeah. That's cool. And you said for 20 years you've been assisting with other people's births?
Yep. I have assisted in hospitals and at home, and then I practice in an out of hospital birth setting now. I attend home births. But yeah, I've been with lots of women and families over the years, and everything from totally unmedicated to fully medicated, and it's been really fun. It's such a privilege to be with families at that time, and I try never to forget that. We all bring crazy stuff to our jobs. We've had a bad day or something like that, and I just always remember, you need to step back and take a breath, leave the room or something, but you got to come back here with your head in it for these people, because it doesn't have anything to do with you. They don't care. That what went wrong before you got here. You need to be here in this moment. Now,
I've never witnessed a birth. I want to say one of my good friends in this world, a guy who I grew up with, who I'm still super tight with, my buddy Mike D. He has a lovely daughter. He told me a story. Mm-hmm. He told me a story that when his daughter was born, he was at a hospital, and then everybody was transferred to a different room after the actual delivery took place, but that a bag was left behind, and that someone said to him, maybe just run back, get that bag. I think it was maybe a bag of their personal belongings. Someone said, hey, can you just run back and grab that, because so much is going on. And he said that walking back into the room where the birth happened, before it had been tended to, he said it was one of the most disturbing images to see the aftermath of his daughter's birth. He said it looked like a murder scene. Is that... I wasn't sure how much...
It does a little bit, yeah.
It does? It's as bad as Mike D said.
Well, murder's a little excessive, but it's pretty, like, yeah, I think if you could...
He said he would
if
never
you took
forget
a quick picture and moved all the... yeah. Well, there's, like, fluid and schmutz everywhere,
Schmutz.
and
Ooh,
if one of the...
I hate that you use the word schmutz.
Well, there's just all sorts of stuff.
And
there.
I know
and
this is beautiful and natural, and I'm not trying to make fun, but I am someone who hasn't been through it, so I am going to react like a 13-year-old boy for a lot of this conversation.
It's fine. It's really fun. I mean, there's people that are acting that way in the moment.
I would imagine.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Where you look up and you're like, oh, this person needs to both blink and breathe, or they're going to end up at the side of the bed.
And you're talking a lot about the fathers.
You cut out fathers, caregiver, grandmothers, whoever. I once had a grandmother say, "Oh, I think I'm going to faint." She took the oxygen off the patient and put it on herself.
She took like, stole it from the person in labor.
I said, I'm going to need to take that back. Yeah.
Wow.
I look over, I'm like, you are not supposed to have that.
Making it all about you, Grandma.
I don't feel good. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah, it's messy. It's definitely messy. But you know what? That's one of the fun things is getting it all cleaned up and it looks like it's never happened.
Yeah.
And you make a fresh bed and put like this like egg crate thing on top, and you put fresh sheets on and a fresh blanket, and you get the dad or the partner something, and you get them all tucked in, and it's great. Fresh clothes on, like these fancy hospital undies that we give ladies. And
now I want to ask,
it's a really fun part.
I want to ask about when you say a totally natural, drug-free birth. I would imagine some people are more equipped to handle it. And that's the thing you only find out in the moment, right? Like you find out how equipped you are to do that when it's really going down.
Right.
I
think so. Yeah. Lots of education.
I want a story though. Like what's what was the drug-free birth where you most realized this is a person who maybe would have benefited from some of the painkillers or some of the drugs? You got any other stories akin to the grandma stealing the oxygen mask? What are the other stories that stand out over your 20 years of midwifery?
Well, typically there's always a point in labor where women will look at you and they'll be like, you're not helping me. You should stop saying that, and I'm leaving here right now.
They try to
bounce. I say to women, I say, you know what? That's typically when the baby's going to be born. Really close to when the baby's going to be born.
Yeah.
Which is, transition, which is a time where I always sort of secretly inside, I'm like, oh, good, she wants to leave. That means the baby's going to be here really soon. So I can't think of an instance. I can think of more instances where women have gotten medication too early and they probably could have done it without it. And the medication gets in the way of what they want to experience.
Right.
I've had some great medicated births though too, where, the women are really pleased. And the point is it's about, what works for me or works for somebody else is not, doesn't matter to that woman, right? Like she gets to pick in that moment. If she's told me ahead of time, I really want to avoid medication, then we do lots of things. We have so many things in our bag of tricks. I mean, short of hanging from the ceiling, we can do lots of stuff. Just
to distract and make it pleasant. And have you ever seen
there's showers, there's tubs, there's music, and
Yeah, that sounds nice. Have you ever seen a lady in labor just haul off and punch her partner? You never seen anything like that? Ever see anybody get punched in the face? We were all thinking it, right? That's one of the first questions we were all wondering. We'll get the answer right after we hear from our sponsors here at Beautiful Anonymous. I'm telling you, I've been out of town a lot lately, guys. I've been traveling, was doing shows in London, went on vacation. had some renovations, couldn't stay in my house for a while. You know what my number one complaint is? I'm not sleeping on my Casper. My wife and I were both saying, we got to get back to our house because the Casper's better than all these mattresses that we're dealing with. A Casper is an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. Supportive memory foams create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right sink, just the right bounce. Try Casper for 100 nights risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up, refund you everything. Casper understands the importance of truly sleeping on a mattress before you commit, especially considering you're going to spend a third of your life on it. But guess what? I sleep on one of these things. You are going to love it. In the Facebook group, in the Beautiful Anonymous Facebook group, there are threads, a lot of people going, is Casper really as good as you say? And then you will see dozens of people go, it's actually awesome. I got one. It's rad. Free shipping and returns to US and Canada. Over 20,000 reviews, an average of 4.8 stars. This is quickly becoming the internet's favorite mattress. I am telling you, I sleep on one. My wife has had a lot of back problems over the years. Casper, she says, is a great, great mattress for that as well. I really do genuinely love my mattress. You get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/beautiful using the offer code beautiful. Terms and conditions do apply, but check it out, casper.com/beautiful. For so long, since the beginning of apparel, since man put on clothes, we haven't been putting any thought into our socks. And that's got to change. 4 years ago, two guys set out to rethink things in pursuit of extreme comfort. And after spending 2 years fixing all the things they did not like about conventional socks, Bombas was born. And I can tell you, Bombas, my wife has sworn by these things many, many months now. My wife discovered Bombas socks a while ago and will honestly tell me, she'll put on Bombas socks at the beginning of the day and let out a sigh of contentment and say, today's going to be a good day. She does. That's truth. Bombas offers premium socks equipped with 7 substantial improvements to the ordinary sock. Reinforced footbed built for extreme comfort. Y-stitched heel cups the back of your foot. In fact, Bombas socks are such game changers, customers overwhelmingly claim they are the most comfortable socks they've ever worn. I've started wearing them, and I would say that. Bombas, it really is incredible how it just makes your feet feel better. Every pair of socks Bombas sells, they donate a pair to those in need. And socks are the most requested items at homeless shelters. They have already donated over 2 million pairs so far. So no, by buying Bombas socks, you're actually doing a very good thing. You need new socks. You can't go wrong with Bombas. Go to bombas.com/stories. You get 20% off your first order. You're going to love them. I swear, Bombas, I love them. My wife loves them. My wife really loves them. If you don't love them, you get your money back guaranteed. That's bombas.com/stories. Thank you to all our advertisers. You guys, they make the show happen, bring it to you for free every week. Please do support those guys. Support all the advertisers out there. Use those promo codes. Helps the show, helps your life. Thank you so much. And now, let's get back to our fascinating call with our midwife friend. Have you ever seen a lady in labor just haul off and punch her partner? You never seen anything like that?
I have seen that.
Really?
I've seen, yeah.
I can't let you blow past that story. What happens?
No, she kicked him when she was pushing. She kicked him. He had gone out and eaten potato chips, and he breathed in her face. She was like, "You smell disgusting," and she took her foot and kicked him.
Really?
I was totally dumbfounded.
Where'd she kick him?
Right in the chest.
Right in the chest.
You know, like he was trying to help. She was like, "Get off of me. Stop breathing on me."
Well,
I was like, I'm going to get you a toothbrush and maybe you can come back in.
Is it like, what happens? Is it like with all the endorphins? Is your sense of smell just heightened? Is it?
Yeah, and she had been throwing up.
Oh, she'd been throwing up.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, and she was concentrating and sort of in the zone, and then this guy comes over and breathes, lays barbecue potato chips right in his face. She was not impressed.
Barbecue makes it even worse.
Yeah, it was disgusting. I mean, I didn't really blame her. We don't, I try not to encourage people like hauling off and hitting people. I was grabbed by the neck once. I had a woman like grab my gown and pull me right down in her face, and I was like, okay, and she's like, it's that really intense eye contact. And she was like, you need to help me. And I was like, I need you to let go of my neck, and then I'm going to help you. I said, but if you choke me, I can't help you.
Wow.
So I sort of stroked her arm, and I could feel her like grip loosening. I was like, okay. Stood back up and got a washcloth and got back down right in her face. And I was like, you got this. Just you listen to my voice. This baby's coming. This is really intense. Don't pull away. You get like really in somebody's space for this really intense amount of time. And she didn't physically come after me again after that.
And what happens then afterwards?
The baby came.
Do you have a conversation where after everything's done, everything's calmed down, she's not in pain necessarily anymore? Do you have a conversation where she's like, hey, so remember that time I kicked my husband and choked you? My bad on that.
Yeah, there's usually a lot of like, oh my God, I can't believe I acted like that. I didn't want to do that. I'm so sorry. It's like flipping a switch. All of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. So you're feeling better. Because once the baby's out, most women really do feel better.
Yeah.
There's no longer a live human being coming out of you. So you're like totally like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And women do like to talk about their birth stories a lot. So that's usually part of it, is that processing of like, oh yeah, I kicked my husband. She was still not very nice to him because I guess he really smelled bad.
Look at that.
He looked like a really sad puppy. Like,
well, I do have to say,
I messed up.
I feel like it's pretty fair to say, like, there's labor. Like, what's he doing going and getting chips? What's he doing?
Well, that's partially what she was indignant about, which was, one, I can't eat anything, so why are you? And second of all, why did you eat something that smelled so bad?
Yeah, you got to get something that's very neutral, right? We're talking rice cakes. We're talking crackers. We're not talking barbecue chips. Maybe a noodle, maybe a very gently, like a soup, but not a scented one. Not one that's...
I know.
Yeah, something's neutral.
Often, though, younger fathers don't really think that way. Mm-hmm. Teenagers. Mm-hmm. They don't, they're just not in that space.
So he was a teenager.
They'll be like, well, I had chicken tenders, too. And you're like, dude, why?
Yeah.
Just move. Move out of the way. Like,
the cafeteria food here is not so bad.
Right. Meanwhile, she hasn't eaten in like 18 hours.
Yeah. Cafeteria is actually pretty good. At a pizza bar. Serve yourself pizza.
I know. You just sort of look at them like, oh.
What's the difference between What's the difference between a midwife and a doula? And in my head, I have a vision that there's like a midwife-doula rivalry or war. Is this the case? Are they just the same thing? I've invented in my head a fantasy where there's like a West Side Story style Jets versus Sharks, midwives versus doula culture.
So a midwife is a master's prepared, in many instances, a master's prepared nurse, although there's alternative entries into the profession. So there's certified nurse midwives and there's certified professional midwives who mainly serve families at home. Doulas are trained as birth assistants or labor assistants, and they're really there for the women and their family. They may advocate, they may bring in, massage oils and birth balls and stuff like that. And they're sort of with the women for the duration of labor, but they don't catch the baby. The midwife is the person who catches the baby and who's doing the exams and sort of, I don't like to use the word manage, but the one who's helps to manage the labor piece. So
a midwife has
But we're not at war. We really like each other.
That's
we really
good.
Like each other because we know we're good for each other and we're good for the women.
So it does sound like it's fair to say
be down with that.
A midwife on some level has medical training, can interact with other medical professionals, and is trained in that way, whereas a doula is a little bit more hippie shit? Sorry, Sally, is that fair to say? Hippie shit?
I guess so. Sure. Yeah, if you want to, yeah.
And a little bit more of a homeopathic, a bit more of that?
Yeah, they're going to, they're the ones that would probably say to the dad, let me go get you something to eat, and they won't show back up with barbecued potato chips. right?
That's a good thing
They're
to
like going to make sure everyone's got nourishment, and they bring the essential oils, and they can do a lot of good work. And often women will choose to have them as additionally at their birth for that kind of support, that one-on-one
Yeah,
support.
that's cool. I joke around, but I think that's cool. People do things their own way. I'm all for it.
I just trained to be an abortion doula. That was a cool thing that I did.
What? What's that mean?
So it's a woman or a person that supports a pregnant person no matter what their outcome. So a woman who's choosing not to carry her pregnancy to term, who's seeking termination, I am their support person. So they have a familiar face, which was really cool to do. I really appreciate it. I haven't acted in that role as of yet because I just did the training, but I'm looking forward to doing that this summer and sort of rounding out that, including that as part of my practice and part of my service.
That's very intense. It's very intense.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. I think, it's a time women really also need support, but it's such a, it's so marginalized because it's so polarizing, right?
It is. I'm actually really interested. It's funny. I don't want this to become like too insular to the podcast, but we just did an episode. We just put it out the week you're calling, an episode with a trans caller, and I actually got a message. I got a message from someone that it's funny because I've seen up close how divisive this is. I got a message from someone that said like, it's nice you're supporting the rights of trans people, but what are you doing for the rights of unborn babies? And I had a lot of trouble even. I had a lot of trouble even connecting the logic of what those things have to do with each other in my mind. But it did make me realize, like, when you get into the realm of people, like I'm in New York City. I don't think we define ourselves by moral values here. I think that it's not it's not in my experience, but there are people who that is the first and foremost concern. I have a lot of respect for that. How do you anticipate, like, this is a world people have very strong opinions. I'm sure there's going to be people in your personal life who have opinions on that, and also, there's clinics that people protest out of. There's clinics that people,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's part of why you want to assist women. I would imagine. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, you're exactly correct. I just, if you think about it, 1 in 3 women has an abortion. Like you don't take stuff home. You don't, it doesn't get the same, it really is marginalized, I think is the best way and the best way to say it. And so I just feel really strongly about meeting women where they're at. And for a woman to be able to have that choice, no matter what, to choose parenthood. And if she's not ready to be a parent, then to get to make the choice how she wants to move forward with that. Where I'll be serving women is not a clinic where there's protesting, but I know women who are, and that, that helps when those clinics that have protesters also have really good, sort of guides or people that walk them in. But I want to be that person that this woman, in the midst of this incredibly hard decision and hard procedure can look in my eyes and know that I'm there with her and that I am free of judgment and I am offering her, love and kindness.
Yeah.
And hopefully she'll remember that, because I think, it's those are moments of really deep connection. And I want somebody to remember that when they're reflecting back, on that procedure day, on the day they have the abortion.
Wow. And there's people listening right now who view you as an accessory to murder for that. That's really.
I know.
Have you?
I know.
Yeah. Sorry to bring it down. I'm just very fast. I've never heard of this concept of someone serving in your capacity during an abortion. So I'm sorry to bring it down. You're a very bubbly person, and then I said you're an accessory to murder, and the whole tone changed. You were like, I know.
No.
I know.
But I know you're right, and I know people do think that way. And maybe it just sounds so like cavalier or negligent on my part, but I can't bring myself to that. I can't look at a woman and tell her that's what she's doing. I just couldn't do that to somebody, and there's plenty of women who are really ambivalent and who get there and say, do you think I'm killing my baby? Or, I believe in God, but, or what, there's so many, it's such an intricate and personal decision for somebody to make. It's not like you register online and show up at 10:45. This is, it's so much more than that, and to sort of be a constant and like, I know I've overused the word guide, but sort of that guide is just what I want to be for people. And I can be respectful of other people's beliefs. I don't view myself as accessory to murder. I view myself as somebody who's supporting women and families and all the choices that they have to make. And they're not all easy choices, It's a fallacy that every good choice feels good, right? It just doesn't.
Yeah. I grew up Catholic. I grew up actually very Catholic. My my parents met at the Catholic school that my grandmother was also a teacher at. And all of my grandparents lived within, myself. Let's see, both my grandparents, myself, 2 aunts, and a bunch of cousins. We all lived within 2 blocks of that Catholic church growing up. I was always very, I was heard very much, My point being, I was very, when I was a kid, it was a very divisive thing. And I remember feeling very anti-abortion. Yeah. Then when I was 18, my girlfriend was about 21 days late, and my views changed very quickly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my views changed very quickly. When what happened was we went to a pharmacy. We went to high school together and then to college, and we went to a pharmacy together and we got a pregnancy test. And I remember the person at the counter like kind of shaking her head in a very judgmental way. That was very anxiety inducing. And then we had a pregnancy test and it came up negative. And then my girlfriend immediately got her period, and a lot of it was clearly psychological. It was the power of the mind over the body at that point. But I remember that stretch being 18 and saying like, we're gonna have to drop out of college and raise a kid who's gonna have a really tough life because of my irresponsibility. That ain't good.
Well, and did you change your mind immediately, or did your opinion continue to sort of evolve? Or was it?
It's funny because it's one of those things where when you're young, when I'm young and I have no experience, it's like a purely theoretical, right? There's so many things that people have firm opinions on that are theoretical. It's not in your actual world experience. It's a debate you have at the dinner table,
exactly.
Or it's a thing you talk about amongst people you meet in your community, but it's not a thing you actually have firsthand knowledge of. And then you get firsthand knowledge of it. You see a very personal perspective on it that's quite different than the theoretical perspective. And in my case, I had that classic experience of it. It was a very selfish, self-serving of, I remember called my brother, and I always thought, I called my older brother and I was like, I might need some money. And he immediately was like, I know what you did really? Like it was bad. And, but then, you walk away from that when it's, the selfish side of it, I was in that experience. Let me re-examine this when it's not selfish. And what it did teach me was I would have to be certain that for something that's so hard to go through and that to judge so harshly, that more often than not, I would have to assume it's not someone saying, I still want to go out and party. It's someone saying, I am not capable of giving this potential human being a life that's good, and I can't do that. So I feel like I saw sides of it. And at the end of the day, that is the experience that firmly put me on the side of I'm never gonna judge. I'm just never gonna judge somebody. I know
judgment is so debilitating. Like it puts a wall up between you and that person immediately. You've the relationship has just been totally remodeled. And that's so harsh.
Yeah.
So harsh unless you're, like you said, you have that lived experience or there's some sort of context for it. Otherwise, I just think, there's no value in that. There's no value in looking sideways at somebody who's, or teenagers or college students who are buying pregnancy tests.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that do? Nothing. Nothing. It doesn't help at all.
And one thing I'm thinking of as you and I talk is, it is an application of the skills you've learned, but it's, and again, you said you haven't actually begun practicing this side of your practice, but when you're a midwife serving pregnancies, the ideal is that ends very happy with it, with moving in one direction. And now it's an application of your skills in a direction that is going to be many things, but it's never going to be
happy.
It's never going to be joyous, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's on that spectrum, or it could be another circle, and it's still that, midwifery is to be with women. And so that means you're with women in all its iterations, not just the ones you're comfortable with. Right.
Yeah.
That's I feel really strongly about that. And you have to do those sort of values clarifications and sort of put your stuff aside and just get in it and be there for them, you got to do it. It's how we're going to help each other, through this world,
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
I'm gonna say something joking right now, but it's something I actually think about is when in my life, I'm very lucky I meet a lot of strong women, and in my personal life, my wife is a badass, and my profession too. There's a comedy is traditionally kind of a boys' club. And I'm lucky. I know a lot of women who are like, mm-mm. And then I hear you say things like, no, it's about being with women. It's about standing by the side of women at the end of the day. And I've realized a lot of the women in my life and a lot of the strong women in the modern world, I feel like a lot of people I know would have been burned as witches in the 1500s. You realize that's what that was probably about. They would have tied you to a log in the 1500s. Seeing if you could float,
I know. You're totally right about that.
That's probably...
There's a good, T-shirt or sticker that said, we're the witches your ancestors couldn't burn, or something like that, which I really love.
Hell yeah, doggy. So you're aware. You're if I was in New England in the 1600s, they'd be chasing me through the woods.
I think so. I think they would. Powerful women that can not control things, but that, could sort of manage things on their own, or find things as a group that could master certain things that people had no concept of, right?
Yeah.
I have a book. I was looking for the book in my office. It's called Witches, Midwives, and something else. It's really good.
That's cool.
I can't remember the name of it though right now.
What a interesting... We started off, you were so bubbly and it was so light, and you were talking about your kids and the circles, and then you were talking about the experiences, and we were laughing about people kicking in the chest, and then I'm so grateful that that you shared this other side of it, because it makes me realize how much of this is I think, if I may, and I'm sure that's something you've encountered, I think there is maybe a little bit of an attitude of some, people saying, oh, a midwife or a doula is an accessory that's maybe not necessary all the time. And there's some people who would even roll their eyes at it a little bit. But hearing you say all this side of it, it's this is very philosophical. There's a real philosophy behind this, and what you're bringing to the table. It's very cool. Who knew? Who knew that there was so much of a driving philosophy? I gotta go ponder that. I gotta go philosophize about the nature of philosophy. It's a good thing to have running while that process happens. It's advertisements from our sponsors who help bring this show to you for free. Please do support our sponsors. Use the promo codes. Helps a lot. We'll be back soon with more phone call. Warby Parker is very cool. I'm excited to tell you about it. I've used their service, and it is a game changer. Glasses at warbyparker.com. They start at $95. That includes your prescription. Lenses include anti-glare, anti-scratch coatings, everything you need. Every pair you buy, a pair is distributed to someone in need. It is so easy and risk-free. I've been wearing glasses since I was 8 years old. We're pushing 3 decades. It's so stressful. Glasses cost hundreds of dollars in the store. You got to walk out with a pair. It's like, these are going to be on my face. What's going to happen? No more. Warby Parker sends you a box with 5 pairs. You pick out 5 pairs online. Box shows up a couple days later. You try them on. Show your family. Show your friends. They tell you which. I was able to show my wife, Hallie, which ones do you like? She picked out a nice pair. Free shipping. Put the label back on. Send it back. No obligation to purchase. All of this process is free, by the way. A few days later, glasses are there. I got cool new glasses that I know look good. I was able to look in the mirror, walk around my house with them, show my wife. Head to warbyparker.com/stories. Order your free home try-ons today. Choose your 5 frames, mail them back, have the prescription added. Simple as that. Risk-free, free shipping. warbyparker.com/stories to begin your free home try-on experience today. After you head to warbyparker.com/stories, go download the Warby Parker app from the iTunes store. Awesome companion to the home try-on process. You take photos, wear all the frames, put it in a video, share it with your friends and family all over the world. People help you pick a winner. I have used the warbyparker.com home try-on process. It was very, very cool, very pleasant, super cool packaging, simple process, and now I got a great new pair of glasses. Can't recommend highly enough. Hey, I want to tell you about a great new show from Stitcher called First Day Back. Simple concept. How does a person return from an event that changes them? This new season, this documentary podcast tells this crazy story about a woman who accidentally shot and killed her husband with no memory of it. That is really nuts, right? This show explains what happened that night, but it's really about everything that came after. Like, what's it like your first day out of prison? How does she readjust to freedom? How's she going to find a job? Will she be able to reconnect with her family, with her grandson? All that's the easy part. The hard part's figuring out how to live with the guilt, searching for forgiveness or something like it. How do you come back from the worst thing you've ever done? You don't even remember doing it. First Day Back. Intriguing, intense. I think you'll enjoy it. Subscribe now in Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you again to all the sponsors who make this show happen. Now, let's finish off this fascinating phone call. This is very philosophical. There's a real philosophy behind this and
Yeah.
what you're bringing to the table. It's very cool.
Well, and I think, one of the things, there are midwifery purists, and and there can be sort of, push and pull between midwives, because there's some midwives that say, women should be at home and that's what we should do. And that's how it's going to go. But I think that, then we cut off a whole % of the population who isn't comfortable being at home or doesn't have access to home, that doesn't, or whatever it is. So I like serving women in the hospital because I get a better, a sort of a bigger breadth of population, and it's not so exclusive.
But you're viewed as a
I don't
sellout.
Want to practice as a midwife.
The extremist fringe,
yeah.
the fundamentalist fringe of midwifery views you as a hospital sellout.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't agree with them, but
we have a very on the Chris Gethard Show. I have a TV show, and it's a very strange show. And we have a character named the Human Fish. Very dumb. I'm not going to say this is the most brilliant piece of comedy that's ever come up with, but it's a half man, half fish character. And we once shot a pilot, and we were trying to figure out how to have him in a giant aquarium. And the best we could do.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like, that would be funny, have him swim around in a man-sized aquarium, but the best we could do is we just had him sitting still in a birthing pool, like one of those inflatable, an inflatable. I'm sure you've seen
I love
these.
those inflatable pools.
Yeah, you get one of them inflatable birthing pools. Just stuck my friend Dave in it in a pair of goggles. He just sat there all day. Had hypothermia by the end of the taping.
Oh, you needed to, boil some water.
That's the closest.
Forgive the pun and dump it in there,
It's the closest I've ever had to your life experience. That's the closest shared experiences. You have,
it's half man, half fish in the birth pool.
Yeah, you've shepherded human life into the world, and I once stuck the human fish in an inflatable birthing pool. It's the closest I got.
Well, there's always time for more,
Yeah.
Always, you may find yourself at a birth tub in a very different scenario the next time you're at a birth tub.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows?
Knock on wood. I wonder. I have to ask. I don't want it to get grim just for the sake of it, but it's just an interesting thing. Is like, we've talked so much about you like being there, put the washcloth on the face, shepherding someone. Shepherding a new life into the world, being a part of that process. And we talked about all the positives of that. There also are situations where things go wrong. And I would imagine you really have to, there must be a whole other set of actions and priorities when you are in that situation and it gets tense that way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I mean, most of the time it is a really joyful process, and you have, and you feel like, you have nurses and midwives there, and there's, a lot of joy and sort of cheering on. But you do things can go wrong. I mean, that's a risk no matter what. And often people, when you say that you're attending women at home, will say, but what if something goes wrong? And I think that's a reasonable question. I have had, babies come out not so great. I've attended women and have caught babies that have died before they were born. And that's a really hard thing to do. Although, at the risk of sounding a little hokey, it also is just another one of those experiences that you're grateful that you get to be there, that you can be there with this family as they get something totally different than what they thought was going to happen. And those are rare occasions, but yes, they do happen. They definitely happen.
Yeah.
There's just lots of different ways to handle that. A baby that's not looking very good, we have lots of people we can call and, that are going to come in and attend that baby right away. And hopefully we have time to say, okay, when this baby's born, we're going to cut the cord right away. And I'm going to give he or she to the nursery. It doesn't have to be so crash and burn and emergent, although that happens too. And then, for my practice and in my experience, I've never attended a woman whose baby has died that didn't know. And so I guess I'm really fortunate that I know I'm very fortunate that way, but I have attended women in labor who came to the hospital knowing that their baby had recently died.
Oh, that has to be one of the hardest things. That has to be one of the hardest things.
It is. It really is. It's just it's so damn sad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that sad that's like, boy, like right in your heart.
Yeah. Can you tell that crocus story again? Just tell the crocus story again.
I know those.
How did I pull that off in 45 minutes? We went from the crocus. I managed to drag you from the crocuses to this in 45 minutes. I really got a lot of problems.
No, so this is, I'll tell you about another circle that's it's a really cool circle. It's not quite as sad because so my dad died of colon cancer, and I know that's not a good lead-in. It sounds sad.
I'm very sorry.
But he was 70 and he had been sick for a long time. Thank you very much. He had been sick for a really long time. And the weird thing with my dad is I hadn't seen him since I was 3, so I hadn't seen him in 38 years, and I met him the week he died. I met him in hospice, thanks to social media and family that reached out to my brother and I to go and meet this person that we hadn't seen since we were infants. And the language that's used in hospice, if you close your eyes in that room, it's the same language that midwives use. It's a passage, or it's that circle. So as sad as I was to experience this with my dad, there was something so comforting that I sort of knew the language. And that was really, really eye-opening for me. And also it sort of changed that whole perspective when I am with families who've experienced a fetal death. Just again, coming back to the language in the circle and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But my dad, it was expected. But I just thought, And there were these like Southern hospice nurses that you just like wanted to sit on their lap and they would like feed you grits or something like that. They had like those kind of voices. And I just thought, I'm so glad these women are taking my dad through this, but the language is the same. The language is the same.
That's a beautiful story. Again, I feel really bad that I took this to a place where you were able to tell a story about being with your estranged father as he died of colon cancer, and that was, hey, let's pep things back up a little bit.
I know. I'm trying to think of a good one. When my third son was born, though, the very first thing I said when I picked him up off the ground is, "Oh my God, he has a huge nose," and I called him Cyrano.
Ooh, that's nice, Cyrano.
He's grown into his nose. He's a big boy.
Now, how do you feel about this?
I don't know. That's a little lighter.
This is a joke I used to tell. It's actually on my album, and you're generally not supposed, as a stand-up, you're supposed to kill jokes. But since it's a true story, I will tell you, you must have an opinion on this. Now, my mother is a tiny woman. She's about 5 feet tall. And the biggest...
Sally.
Yes, the biggest sorry Sally moment in my life was actually the beginning. This is very true. When I was being born... The doctor, apparently, what I've been told, this is family legend. In fact, from what I understand, is that the doctor took a step back and said the words, "My God, his head is as big as a bowling ball."
Oh, poor Sally.
And then supposedly the doctor refused to tell her.
That's something you want to keep to yourself.
Yeah, I don't know why I know that. Explains a lot of why. The fact that I've known that story since I was about 6 tells you a lot about why I turned into a comedian. But also, apparently, the doctor refused to tell my parents how many stitches Sally had because it was just like,
of course.
Have you ever seen a bowling ball?
Were
head?
you the last baby?
I was the second of two.
Have.
Yeah, you just see a kid with a giant melon come out, and you're like, "Oh, this is about to be a bad couple hours."
I just think I do say those things in my head, or the ones that come out and their hand is on their cheek. So you see the head and all of a sudden you're like, why are those fingers there? Like they're not supposed to be like that. Ugh. But then I see the whole hand and the hands look like mitts. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a big baby. And they're usually 9-pounders.
Yeah, a 9-pounder.
Which is
I like
baby.
That you talk about them like fish. You talk about them like fishermen talk about like a trout. Caught a 9-pounder today.
You're right.
What's the biggest?
Exactly.
What's the biggest baby you remember helping to deliver? You ever get? Do they ever come out? Like, what's the biggest they come out?
11 pounds for me.
Oh gosh.
11 pounds.
And is there?
I didn't have the 11-pound baby. I attended somebody who had the 11-pound baby.
Right.
It was her third baby.
Okay, so she was a pro.
Yeah, and she was sort of like, and then there was this big baby. I was like, okay. Oh, hey.
Is there ever a point?
He was really cute.
But if it's someone's first time birth and it's a smaller framed lady and you realize you got a 10-pounder in there, is there any part of you that wants to just like lean over and just be like, we're going to need a bigger boat? Like, do you ever, is there ever a party that's like, oh, we are entering a world you have no idea what's about to happen?
I think, you know what, in a weird way, there is always this moment where I think, and I've talked to more experienced midwives, where I'm sort of like looking at the scene going on and I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this works. I can't believe this works. This is never going to work. Oh, this is not working. And then I get past that and then I'm like, of course it's going to work. This is how women's bodies work and babies' heads work. And but yeah, there is that sort of like, ooh.
Yeah, they had to pull me out with the salad tongs. My mom always says they had to use the salad tongs on me.
Yeah, we use vacuums now.
I
don't, but people do use vacuums.
Really? So, because you can misshape, right? They weren't really salad tongs, but I don't know what the actual medical.
No, they're forceps.
Forceps. I was pulled out with forceps. But a baby's head is soft, so you can maybe misshape the baby's head, or is that an urban legend as to why they stopped using the salad tongs?
Well, I mean, how I understand why we stopped using the salad tongs is that there's less and less providers who are trained on them. It's sort of a more antiquated method, and we have this vacuum. Babies' heads are soft, and they have those suture lines that are overriding, like their skull isn't fused, so their bones sort of overlap, so they can come down through the birth canal and everything. But we have this device that's like a suction yarmulke that you put on the back of the head. You pump it up, and you push, and she pushes and you pull at the same time.
So if a baby's head is too big at this point in history, you get out a suction cup vacuum and you attach it.
Yeah.
And that baby never knows that it came into the world in hilariously comical, degrading fashion. Unless, of course, the parents tell it like mine did.
Right. Or takes pictures of like the little spot on the back of their head that looks like, a huge something sucked onto the top of their head.
Oh, you get so the baby comes out with like a hickey.
Pretty far down.
Yeah. Because I came out, I had a bowling ball head. They pulled me out with the salad tongs, and I was jaundice. It must have been horrifying for my mom. They like pull out some giant. She must have thought she was giving birth to an alien. Like they pull out some giant-headed green thing. She must have thought she gave birth to an alien.
No, but you know what? They're all cute. All babies are cute.
Oh, that's a lie. Everybody listening was just like, I've seen some ugly babies. You've seen one come out where you're like, that baby looks like Mr. Magoo. I guess that's kind of cute, though.
Usually, if you look around the room, you can pick out who they look like.
Diplomatically said.
I remember one of the things. That's right. One of the things, and the other thing that we're taught when we're, especially as nurses, never say the baby looks just like the dad.
Yeah.
Because the guy standing at the head of the bed just might not be.
Right.
You just don't want to put your foot in it that way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I would imagine. What a cool life.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun.
So wait, when you said you come into your office at 5:30 a.m., I never even thought of that.
I also teach.
Oh, you also teach. Weird. You brought up two things.
I teach nursing.
You teach nursing. We could have done a whole hour about that. I applaud. One of the only callers in history that 45 minutes in can drop that you never met your dad until his death, and that's like the third thing down on the ladder of what we're talking about. Could have talked a whole hour about
in
that.
In the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I teach nursing.
Now, I know this is an unfair question.
Great little life.
It's a great life. 5 minutes left. What an unfair question. Do you think that there's any aspect of you wanting to shepherd children into the world that has to do with the fact that you did not have a traditional parental unit? Discuss. Unfair question. 5 minutes left.
Oh, no, that's a really good question. I've never thought about it, but now I will be thinking about it.
Sorry to throw that monkey wrench into your whole life.
Yeah, I think I don't know that being a midwife has sort of filled that gap. I know there's other ways in my life that I've, looked for and lamented not having a dad because I really wanted one. But I see midwifery as more sort of that growth into myself more so than, trying to find my dad type of thing.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right.
But that is a good question.
What a cool life. What a cool life you've led. What a cool life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got more to go, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
I got grandbabies to catch someday, so that's really good.
Oh, are you
no pressure on my children, and it's not time, but...
Are you going to tell your daughter, I'd love to be a midwife? Like, is that a goal? Like the midwife at
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've
birth?
talked about it already.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, we've already talked about it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. It's only the youngest one who's sort of said to me, yeah, that's not happening. Okay.
Wow.
Thanks, buddy. So, yeah, thank you.
I live in New York, and there's a place called, I think it's called, a lot of my friends, I think most of my friends try to have their births if they can at this place. There's like a birthing center where it's like one floor is a natural birth facility, and then the floor below it is like a traditional hospital setting. So that if something goes wrong, you just you get on the elevator one floor. Are there a lot of? That's right. Are there a lot of?
That's a great compromise.
And but there's OG midwives out there that are like, yo, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. Stop with the bullshit. Sorry,
right.
Sally. There are.
Yeah.
Really?
Of course. I mean, because they're still just people, and they're still got all their weird baggage that they carry along, right?
Yeah.
You know, I just think that's so limiting. You know, you're really, really doing a disservice. Doesn't meet the needs of every woman. So you need to think about that, or I feel we should think about that.
Yeah. Wow. There's like 8 million questions I didn't get to.
Save it for another time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, we have 2.5 minutes
It's a
left.
great part of my day.
No, please. I'm happy. I'm very happy I got to talk to you. It's a glimpse into a whole life I never knew.
Yeah. Well, I think I like that. I often, that it was so revelatory for me to meet these women when I met the midwives and just sort of one day look up and think, oh, there I am. That's me. That's what I'm going to do. And that was really comforting.
So the birth of your first child was like transformative in multiple directions. Nothing about your life was the same.
Yeah.
Personally, professionally after that day.
Yeah.
You ever paint anymore? You ever
Exactly.
paint from time to time or no?
I do. I still dream about painting, so I know that I'm still a painter. But yeah, I do on occasion.
Cool. That's cool. And do you ever find yourself like you're in the supermarket shopping, somebody's coming with their cart in the other direction, and they're like, wait, do I know you from somewhere? And you're like, oh, I pulled your child out of your genital region. I'm the one who pulled your child out of your genitals.
Your hoo-ha.
Your hoo-ha.
Yes, I do. Because I live in a small town, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, some of my first babies are getting ready to graduate from high school.
Oh, that's nice. And do you know?
It's really cool.
Do you
really cool?
And you remember them? You remember the names and stuff, especially those first ones. I imagine.
I do for the most part. I like when the parents remind me. But there's a couple that are really unforgettable, like the ones who are really big or really goofy, or there was something funny that happened. But I'm always grateful that how women really remember.
Yeah.
Because that was so important to them. So I'm glad when they remember certain things.
That's very cool. Which is
fun.
We got 10 seconds left. Me and you, we got 10 seconds left. I want to thank you for the fascinating talk.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a great hour, an hour well spent. I feel really grateful. Thank you.
Caller, thanks for letting me know about everything that's out there, all the experiences, some funny parts, some sad parts, some controversial parts. I might go so far as to say that call had it all. Thank you so much for calling up, and thank you to everybody who listens, everybody who supports the show. Remember, rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. That helps so much more than you know. I haven't pushed it very hard lately, but really, please do help out. I want to thank Reverend John Delore, who helped build this show in the first place. Jared O'Connell, of course, is in the booth. Harry Nelson's been in the booth lately as well, keeping an eye on things, shepherding this community in all different directions. I want to thank Shellshag for the intro music. Shellshag is an incredible band, incredible people, incredible artists. Please do support them. I'm always out on the road. chrisgeth.com if you want to know those dates. Please do check it out. Thanks as always for listening to Beautiful Anonymous. Hello? Hi. Thanks for talking to me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for interviewing me today.
No, it's my pleasure. I should explain, just so everybody's clear, this is, it's like a mini episode of my podcast. Subaru has sponsored the content, but they haven't given me any mandates. They're not, it's just, we're going to talk. All I've been told is that you are currently in a Subaru and that you're a fan of the brand. And outside of that, we can just talk and catch up and go for broke.
Okay.
So
works for me.
Nice. So you are. So I mean, I hear you are currently in a Subaru.
Yes.
That's cool.
Currently cruising in the Subaru. Yes.
Cruising. So you. That's nice.
Yep.
You're cruising. Are you someone who do you cruise often? Do you enjoy a good cruise?
You know what? We do. We travel all over the place in it.
When you say we, who are we talking about here?
Oh, my husband and I.
Nice. How long have you been married?
Oh, I've been married for 17 years.
17 years. Nice. I'm like 2.5 in.
It's wonderful. Keep going.
I like it. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying it gets better. It gets better over time.
Everything gets better with age.
Look at that. I like this positive. You're one of the more positive people I've ever talked to.
Well, I'm glad, because we need more of that.
Yeah. A lot of people who I get to talk to on this show are full of angst. You sound like someone, you're kind of feeling it. You're liking life.
Life's too short. You got to celebrate it, right?
I think so. What are the if you had to give me, as someone who has been married 17 years, I'm someone who's, it'll be 3 years in August. What are the core elements? What are the bullet points? How do you keep it going? How do you keep it feeling so positive? How do you keep it fresh?
Stay creative. Definitely stay creative and be willing to say you're sorry when you actually made the mistake, because it does happen. And then have a lot of fun.
Have a lot of fun. One great place to have fun is in a luxurious Subaru automobile.
You know, I will say we have had a ton of fun in it. We've cruised it all over California, up into Oregon, Washington, Arizona. As a matter of fact, we got up not too long ago and decided we wanted to have breakfast in another state. So we jumped in the car in the Subaru and we took off. Went and had breakfast and then drove home.
You sound like you have the dream marriage. What'd you have for breakfast?
We had pancakes and eggs and bacon and all that wonderful stuff.
Hold on. Wait, I'm not judging. You drove all the way to a different state and you got a breakfast that you can get at any diner anywhere.
Yeah, it was just about the road trip. We went to Cracker Barrel. There wasn't one in California, so we had to drive all the way out to Arizona.
I love that. Here's, because I do want, Subaru is very kindly sponsoring this, and I'm enjoying this conversation. I mean, you are someone, it's clear, this is not something you're making up because Subaru asked you to. You love a good road trip. Why do you enjoy, what is it about their car that appeals to you?
Honestly, I love the fact that I can put a whole bunch of junk in it. It's very comfortable, and it gets great gas mileage, so I can go anywhere in it. And I've put on, since we purchased it, in October of 2015, I'm already at 40,000 miles. 17
years, and it sounds like you and your spouse still have fun every weekend.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we just drove to the coast this last weekend and watched the sunset. It was really nice.
You just drive just to see the sunset. You hop in the old Subaru. Yes. You say, let's put our worries away for a while.
As a matter of fact, that particular day, we did jump in the car and we drove up to the mountains to watch the sun rise and the moon set, and then spent the day out and about, and then drove to the coast to watch the sunset.
You're like the
most. It was a very fun day.
You're like the most in love couple I've ever heard of.
That's good, right?
Yeah, and I want to thank you. I'm really inspired. I want to go home and I want to
give your wife a hug.
I want to go home. I was just gonna say I want to go home, give my wife a big hug, and say, you know what? Let's jump in the car.
See, that's what you got to do. That's actually what you got to do. Sometimes you just got to call out sick, and you got to go home and love your spouse. Because that's what it's all about.
Call out sick, love your spouse.
Call out sick, take the day, do whatever you got to do.
Do whatever you got to do.
Go home.
And I think we would both agree, when you take that day off and you do what you got to do, the best place to do it is in a Subaru. Wow, I cracked you up on that last one.
Yes, you did.
I feel good about that. So nice talking to you.
It was a pleasure. Have a great rest of the day.
You too. Hey, everybody out there listening. You can go right now. Go to meetandowner.com. You'll meet other real Subaru owners. You'll hear all about why they love their cars. Next time on Beautiful Anonymous, join us for 8-person orgy straight up. Are there ever situations where you get in the bedroom and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, guys, looks like one of those fireplace logs.
Oh my God.
It's like a Duraflame just fell out of his pants.
That does, yes, you just you see it?
I have been surprised one time with, it looks like like a balloon you make a balloon animal with. It got huge. Like it was huge. And I just was like, oh my God. And what do you do with that?
What's the reaction? How do you handle that?
You just keep going and you're just like, wow.
I just cried and laughed.
You just cry and laugh.
That's next time on Beautiful Anonymous.
Hey, this is Hillary Frank. I host the Longest Shortest Time podcast. Tune in next week for a very special interview with comedian Rob Hubel. We will talk about his wife.
Oh boy, Hillary, don't make me start crying.
Becoming a dad.
Hold on, I gotta pour myself some water so I don't cry on your podcast.
And bringing his daughter home.
And I gotta take a sip of this water, which I wish was vodka, but it's water. To keep myself from crying like a big crybaby.
Rob Hubel, like you have never heard him before. Next week on The Longest Shortest Time.
Fuck you, Hillary. Fuck you.
Just doing my job.
This has been an Earwolf production. Executive produced by Scott Aukerman, Chris Bannon, and Colin Anderson. For more information and content, visit earwolf.com.